Let's be honest. I tried to do 100 videos of this, and it just sounds like I'm reading some bloody encyclopedia. So I'm going to try my best to make it interesting, because it is a rant on coffee, and coffee is liquid sex in a mug, and it tastes amazing, and it's just amazing. Like, I can't adult without coffee. Like, it's just. Anyway, so coffee. Why is coffee amazing? For starters, if we want to dig into the performance enhancing impacts of it, I read a study. Actually, it was a meta-analysis on several studies that put together a plot diagram. So they put together like this little graph thing. I'm probably just going cross-eyed. If I go cross-eyed trying to explain this, don't laugh at me. But they put together this little graph thing, and then there's like every single study they put either the placebo or the caffeine, like what it favored. And most of the dots were on the caffeine side, favoring caffeine against placebo for upper body strength, lower body strength, and total body power. So it pretty much summarized, from analyzing all of these reviews, from having all of like the dots in the caffeine side, that there was a significant increase in upper body strength in the caffeine group versus the placebo group. In the lower body strength, there was an increase, but it wasn't to the same degree. In the performance, there was a massive increase in performance too. Pretty much every study that I've come across with caffeine against a placebo have shown that it has increased time to failure, reps to failure, so you can do more reps until you fail. It has increased strength, performance, even mood after or towards an exercise. But that was very, very selective. Like, only a few people responded to the mood aspects of caffeine and exercises. And in saying that, there are responders and non-responders to coffee, as well as there are people that are super sensitive to caffeine and do better without it because they just get anxiety and palpitations, and it increases their blood pressure, and it's just not good. So determine whether it's good for you. If you're not sensitive, take the damn coffee because it's amazing. If you don't respond, then I feel sorry for you. Try a pre-workout with more pump ingredients like beta-alanine. Glycine is actually really bloody good for pumps, by the way, with citrulline. It's really good. And nitric oxide. And make sure you salt your stuff because that gives you veins. Anyway, coffee. You're also subject to tolerance of coffee. It's recommended to cycle it, but it's not mandatory. But you will become more tolerant to it. So coffee is pretty much the 2 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. That's what the ISSN recommends. And the ISSN are pretty up there with their knowledge and their research. So I would say about 4 megs per kilo body weight is about what I would go for, the safe point. You don't want too much and you don't want too little. Sometimes if you have too much, it has the opposite effect and you just end up feeling tired. So there was a study they did where they were sleep deprived and non-sleep deprived people. Then they split each of those sleep deprived and non-sleep deprived people into caffeine and non-caffeine. And they found that the sleep deprived and the non-sleep deprived of caffeine people performed the best, but the sleep deprived of the caffeine people just acted like they weren't non-sleep deprived. It wasn't like a massive performance increase. It was just like they slept normally. But the non-sleep deprived caffeine people had a significant increase in performance. So caffeine's good. And then there were some studies outside of health and fitness reasons. It showed that it had more alertness during the day when it came to driving, so it made driving safer, as like the cortical areas in the brain had like increased I will explain that in a second too. Increased neural activity in the cortical areas, which increased awareness, decreased fatigue, thus good for driving, and pretty much your reaction time was on point. So when it comes to when I said like the neural activity in your cortical areas, so I made a post not too long ago. If you didn't see it, comment below and I'll link you to it. But I made a post before about the caffeine nap and just how amazing it is. Because what happens is when you wake up and you start like using your brain and going about your day-to-day activities, these chemical compounds called adenosine is formed in the brain. And then they surround these adenosine receptors. This is the thing, and these are the nerve pathways. So they hook into these adenosine receptors, and this is the nerve pulse trying to go. So when they clog in, it slows down the nerve pulses and it increases drowsiness, tiredness, and all of that stuff. What caffeine does is it comes in and it doesn't bind, it just sits there. So it's like a repellent, like you're keeping the mozzies off kind of thing. So it allows an increase in neural activity. But the thing is, it takes 30 minutes to an hour for caffeine levels to peak in your blood. So between 30 minutes to an hour is when it's like saturating the blood. But then in research, when it comes to naps, anything over 30 minutes, you start entering slower wave sleep. So it's best to nap 20 to 30 minutes. So you drink your coffee, you lie down, you set your alarm, 20 to 30 minutes, go to sleep, wake up, you'll feel drowsy for a little bit, but that's because it's still reaching peak levels, you're still waking up, and then by about 40 minutes, you'll start feeling it. That's how coffee works, and that's how the coffee nap works in voice form, in case you didn't read the text. Anyway, so safe dosages. The average amount I'd say is about 400 milligrams a day for the average adult. Now, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, definitely do not have that much. I'd say have half of that. If anything, stay on the lower dose. And now on to what spurred this. I posted a photo on Instagram. Now, I really want to show it to you, but I do not know how clear it's going to show. I posted this on Instagram, and then someone commented on it saying, coffee is an addiction, and it's so bad for you. And then someone else jumped in, then I jumped in, and there was a link to some dweeb saying that coffee promotes cancer, coffee promotes weight gain without adding any extra calories. It somehow promotes weight gain, and it promotes cellulite because it's a toxin, and makes you poop because it's a toxin, and then all this other stuff because it's a toxin, and makes you gain weight, gives you cancer. What else did he say? One sec. Gives you heart disease, depression, and for some reason fatigue. Now, the down effects after caffeine can give you fatigue because the high of the caffeine is like the caffeine's now wearing off and getting metabolized by the body, so now the adenosine's coming back on. But the coffee isn't causing the fatigue. The fact that the caffeine isn't there is causing fatigue. Now, when it comes to the cancer and what else did he say? The heart disease and all that stuff, there is a compound in this sex in a cup, liquid elixir of life, called chlorogenic acid. And melanoidins, I think they're called melanoidins, and chlorogenic acid. Now, both of these compounds play pivotal roles in lipid and glucose metabolism regulation, which means that it has anti-diabetes properties. It has anti-obesity properties. It's also anti-inflammatory. This is the chlorogenic acid and the melanoidins. It's anti-obesity, anti-diabetes, anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic. It prevents against the fatty liver, cancer, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. Pretty much everything I just said 3 times over, because That's what chlorogenic acid and melanoidins do. You can easily look it up in Google. Chlorogenic acid. Now, this is found more in green coffee extract, but just have coffee. Coffee has many amazing things in it. And it just tastes so much better than having some green coffee extract, because, you know. But yeah, so pretty much the gist of this is to say that that guy is a dweeb. It does not cause cellulite because it is a toxin, because no, it is amazing. It actually blunts your appetite, increases your resting metabolic rate. I think I already went all over this. It has amazing weight loss properties. Let's just say that. It is the best thermogenic and only scientifically proved thermogenic. And it's in pretty much all the thermogenic products, because it is pretty much the only scientifically researched thing to blunt your appetite and increase your resting metabolic rate. So that's false. And also, on a side note, just to end this, he also said that it blocks iron absorption. Now that is true, which is why it makes it good for people with acne. Because sometimes acne is an issue of iron absorption issues. So it can help. Like I said, there are responders and non-responders. So you can take coffee with anything that's high in iron, if you're not deficient in iron, of course, but it tends to be a problem with people with acne. So there's my little Ruby rambles for today on caffeine and just how amazing it is. I just wish I had a mug with me, but I kind of finished it and it's downstairs. But my mug is 500 mils, and I have 2 of those every morning before I work out. So that's Ruby's rambles. Hope you liked it, and sorry for being awkward.